Welcome in episode 30 of the PrintFest DFS podcast. My name is Justin Rue, alongside Scott Bandy. We're here to break down our week 3 Draftkings cash game lineups. The line of cash this week was 145.4. It kind of varied here between different contests, but I'm just looking at the massive $25 double up on DraftKings, and my lineup scored 152.2. So I, finished 7 points above line of cash, and Scott was not so lucky. We ended up having a 2v2 this week. I had Saquon and Higbee, and Scott ended up going with Tyler Boyd, and TJ Hawkinson. So paid up a tight end, bit him in the ass again. We talk about this seemingly every Monday. We want to punt it off. This week, there really weren't a lot of great punt options. I mean, I guess Tyler Conklin was a great punt option. But yeah, Hawkinson just completely did you in. How you feeling off this week?
I don't know, man. I just made some decisions that they're just bad from a process perspective. I don't like paying up for tight end, but I thought Hawkinson was, I thought he was way underpriced. Like, he should have been at least $6K for the usage and the production we've gotten from him. And I mean, when he goes out there and he gets, out targeted by Darren Fells, he has less air yards than Darren Fells, he has less receptions than Darren Fells. That's just what's going to happen. And when you pay up at, a 5.2K price tag for a tight end, I should have known from the get-go it was terrible. I think either one of us didn't think that he was going to be 50% owned either in double ups. So I guess his ownership made it a little less, painful to stomach. But I mean, yeah, just some process mistakes on my behalf that, I'll learn from. And, I'm just a fish. I'm just a fish. I don't even know what else to say.
Yeah. Finishing 13 points below line of cash. That's some low T fish shit. All right, so let's just start with all the guys that we played. So we both played Justin Fields, 5,200. In his rookie starting debut, and it was like the worst game I've ever seen a quarterback have. And it wasn't all him. I mean, he was terrible, but the Bears just put him in absolutely horrible situations. He got sacked so many times, like 9 or 10 times. He was under pressure, like 55% of his dropbacks, couldn't get anything going. They just look completely out of sorts. Matt Nagy is a total dunce. And Justin Fields is way better than this. We know he's a stud. But he looked like absolute shit. They weren't designing any runs for him. We thought he would probably get 40 or 50 yards at least rushing, and they just got the doors blown off by the Browns. 5,200. I would play him again. I think it was a mistake not to. At least I didn't consider any other quarterbacks on the slate. I didn't even try to make lineups with Lamar or with Kyler, with Herbert or anybody like that. Maybe I was a mistake to not even try, but I thought Fields was such a smash play that I didn't even try.
Yeah. This whole thing with Fields, he was way lower owned than I think we thought, like 15% in double ups. I thought that he was just going to be a lock. Like at 5.2K, he gave you the rushing floor that guys like Hurts and Lamar and Kyler give you at a 2 to 3K discount. So I'm just sick and tired of Matt Nagy. He's literally the worst fucking coach in the league. I've never coached a down of football in my life, and I know that when you have Justin Fields who runs a 4.4, you design runs for him. You find ways to take advantage of that skill set. You don't just sit him in the freaking pocket against one of the league's, a top half of the league defense in his first start. You got to do something to help this guy out. But instead, he gets sacked 9 times. He only completes 6 passes. 30% completion percentage. It was literally, I saw a stat that said it was the second worst yards per play from an offense in this century. But we quite literally couldn't have had a worse performance from Fields. Holy shit, dude. 30.9 points. And what did us in was that he was only 15%.
Right.
If he was massive chalk, it wouldn't have hurt as bad. I know that the combination for me, having Fields at 15%, give me 3 points at quarterback with paying up with at 5.2K with Hawkinson, with him getting me 3 points, the combination of those two getting 6, and I played Osborne as well, but that's negligible because he was 3.5K. We knew that was in his range of outcomes. But yeah, Fields being 15% and putting a performance like this, it sets you behind the 8 ball a little bit. Like you're gonna have to come, crawling back. But you got there, I did not. But yeah, this was literally the worst performance I've ever seen from a quarterback and a coach.
Right. Yeah, it was terrible. It was terrible. Moving over to running back, we both end up playing Derrick Henry and Austin Eckler. Derrick Henry ended up being around 18% owned, home favorite against Indianapolis. 8,600. He's starting to be involved in the passing game more, like we mentioned on the pod on Friday. And, he ended up having, I believe, 3 receptions here for another 30 yards. He got the bonus. He was going to get the bonus, getting over 100 rushing yards. He ended up putting up 22.4 without even getting into the box. I mean, if this guy gets in the box, he puts up 28, gets in there twice, and he's blasting over 30. I think that, potentially got a little bit unlucky here with Henry. But still, I mean, the fact that he can put up 22.4 without scoring a touchdown is showing that this guy is going to be a smash moving forward if they keep involving him in the passing game.
Yeah, man, his floor has been raised a ton with this receiving work. He's had 3 catches at least in every game now, I think.
Yep.
Remember he had 2 week 1, but I believe he had 3. Yeah, I think we ran a little unlucky. We got cucked by that McNichols touchdown too, which sucked. And there ain't many games that Derrick Henry's not going to score in games that they win. Like if Titans win, if I tell you the Titans won this game by 9, you're going to think Derrick Henry scored. So yeah, going forward, if he's going to have this kind of receiving floor, he's going to be a lot more, stomachable as a cash play. I think we were both a little surprised at his ownership, only 17% in the double up. It seemed like after the Dalvin news came out, originally I was thinking that people would just, pivot right from Dalvin to Henry. Because, it's really scary to fade Henry. And he was in a great spot, similar price tag. But what actually happened was people just went straight to Madison. And, some of the ownership was taken away from Henry. But, all in all, he was fine. You probably want a little bit more at 8.6 price tag. But, that's fine.
Yeah. And then Austin Eckler, we both end up playing him 7,200. We know the kind of pass catching role he has. Shootout game here against Kansas City. He ended up being 27.8% owned, so decently chalky here. Ended up putting up 22.7, had 6 receptions, 52 yards receiving. He had the receiving touchdown, 55 yards on the ground. Really solid all-around day from Eckler. It's about what we expect from him. And 22.7, real solid. I feel really good about the process of Eckler. I love the player. We love his role. Just I'm surprised more people didn't play him.
Yeah, me too. He's just a total stud. Like he's literally Alvin Kamara. Like they're literally the same player, except Eckler's in a much better offense now.
Yeah.
27.8% like the ownership is probably around what we thought. I thought he'd be around 30. In this game against the Chiefs, like it just set up well. They were, I think, 6.5 point dogs. We got 6 receptions, solid rushing floor, 55 yards. We ended up getting the touchdown, so he was completely fine play. It was the best game on the slate. The Chargers, they scored 30 against that shitty Kansas City defense, and getting exposure to that game through him is really, really nice.
Yeah, the last running back I played, because you went with a 4 wide receiver build this week. So I ended up going with Saquon, 6,500 at home. We talked about him on Friday. It's just too cheap for Saquon where he was coming off a game playing 84% of snaps. He ended up playing 86% of the snaps this week, which is just an awesome workload. There was only one running back on the active roster behind him. and Gary Brightwell, and I think Elijah Penny, which is their fullback. So, I mean, taking on Atlanta in this spot, I couldn't get away from him. He ended up being 31.4% owned. So, again, decently chalky here. You want to talk about your fade on Saquon?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a fish, dude. Like, I'm just complete fish. Like, I said on Friday that I thought it was a little bit of trap, but I said it was like seemingly the perfect spot for him. Coming off a long week, they were home favorites against one of the worst freaking defenses we've ever seen. And he's Saquon Barkley, and he's 6.5K. Like, yeah, I guess it did kind of feel like a trap on Sunday morning when the news broke that Devontae Booker was a healthy scratch and there was only Gary Brightwell behind him. Like, that should have just told me, like, okay, they're fully confident in him. He's going to be on the field for every snap. Like,
I was trying to tell you that.
I'm just a fish. Like, I just overthought it. The problem was, like, I experimented with a build with Saquon and fading Henry. Problem is, I'm just a pussy and I didn't want to fade Henry, and I got scared. And that build would have given me Saquon Barkley and Keenan Allen. So I think the lineup was Barkley, Eckler, Keenan, Godwin, Cup, and Boyd, I think. And if I play that, then I make money, So it just came down, like, I struggled all day Sunday morning with fading Derrick Henry. And we were on the FaceTime, and I was like, all right, I'm fading Henry. And then I was like, all right, no, I can't fade Henry. I'm going to hear touchdown Titans.
No, yeah, you
and
can't.
It's going to be just a visual of Derrick Henry just galloping 55 yards to the end zone. I didn't want to deal with that. So, Derrick Henry just ruins every slate that he's on when he's going to be chalky. Like, I just wish people didn't play him. I wish he just didn't exist. He's just a scary fade, and he's also scary to play. But yeah, I'm just a fish for fading Saquon at 6.5K. Like, he's one of the best running backs in the league. So I have no excuses for this. I have gills. Like, I'm straight up fish.
Moving over to wide receiver, we both played Cooper Kupp. We don't have to be long on this one. He was 59% owned. We talked about him on Friday. If you don't play Cooper Kupp, you're a total fish. And it turns out 40% of people are total fish on DraftKings. So that's wonderful. He should have been literally 100% owned at 6,800 in a shootout taking on Tampa Bay. He went 9 for 96 and 2, scored 30.6. He was an awesome play. There's not really much more else to say. He should be. I looked at the prices for next week. He's 7,800. That's fine. That's not too high. Like, he didn't play again.
Yeah, I mean, I might be a fish, but I'm not that big of a fish that I faded Cooper Kupp. Like, what are 41% of the field doing here?
I have no idea.
What the hell are you doing? He's literally in this offense. He's literally the best receiver in the league for fantasy. Like, he's getting massive volume with Stafford, and he's getting massive touchdown equity. Like, especially in a game where there was no Darrell Henderson against a pass funnel defense. In a game that you talked about, they were probably going to throw double what they had. I don't know what Stafford ended up with, but I think we got another like 12 or 13 targets from Cooper Kupp, 2 more touchdowns. Like, he was just a complete smash. And if you didn't play him, then, like, I don't even know. Like, you literally should have built your lineup around Cooper Kupp. So if you didn't play him, then I don't know what to tell you. But he's literally the best receiver in fantasy right now.
Yeah, he's on fire. They end up throwing the ball 38 times. So not as high as I thought, but still higher than what they have been the last 10 more times. Like I mentioned on Friday, that he was averaging 28 pass attempts a game. He ended up throwing the ball 38. So we knew that the pass attempts would be up here. And Cooper Kupp was an awesome play. Chris Godwin, we both ended up playing Chris Godwin. He ended up going 6 for 74. Tampa Bay was kind of getting trounced throughout this entire game. They were down by 2 touchdowns for seemingly the entire game. 6 for 74, 6,100 in a shootout. Great game environment. No Antonio Brown. He ended up being 38.7% owned. So, extremely chalky. He ended up getting a rushing touchdown. So kind of got there, 19.6. Exactly what we needed for 6,100. I feel great about the process on Chris Godwin. The results were there. Just really solid.
Yep. We're on lockstep there. Like, he was just way too cheap in a game. It's at a 55 plus total. there was no Antonio Brown, a 6.1K price tag. I know people were scared about Jalen Ramsey, but you can only put so much into that. Like, I'm pretty sure he did, in fact, shadow Mike Evans for a lot of the game, just like he did last year when these two teams played. But again, you can only give so much of that. At the end of the day, Chris Godwin has led the team in targets. He's led the team in snaps. He's led the team in routes. And it was a game with no AB, who I still think AB is one of the best receivers in the league when he's on the field. So against the Rams team that we knew was going to put up points because Tampa Bay's defense sucked. So you can't ask for anything more than we got here. We did luck. I think we lucked out a little bit with that end around touchdown, but at 6.1K, like, he should have been 7K.
Yeah, he was underpriced for sure. He was underpriced in this spot. The third wide receiver that we played was KJ Osborne. He was 3,500 at home against Seattle. We knew this was an awesome game environment, 55.5 total. The game ended up going under that total, hitting 47 there. But either way, he only had 4.6 points. He had 2 targets. He ended up going 2 for 26. Not great at all. But he was coming off a couple of games where he had a 19% target share. In weeks 1 and 2. So that's decent enough. And they were running a lot more 11 personnel, which is 3 wide receivers on the field. Since Irv Smith has been hurt. So, I feel fine about this KJ Osborne play. It wasn't the most, optimal play, but it kind of fit everything else. It got me to Henry, Barkley, and Eckler, got me to Kupp and Godwin. So, I would probably make the play again. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I agree. Like, the 2 games prior, he had 9 targets and 6 targets as the third receiver on the team. And this is a game, again, that had a 55.5 point total. They were at home. The game's in the Dome. They were dogs. Like, this set up well at a 3.5K price tag. He's that cheap for a reason. Like, you have to build in that a 2 for 26 performance is well within his range of outcomes. But he's so cheap for a player who's playing the majority of the snaps. He's gotten solid target volume. They're at home. The total was 55.5. Like, that's one of the premier games on the slate. Just so happened that Seattle didn't show up. And this game went, 9 points under or 8 points under, whatever it was. So, yeah, I mean, 4.6 points, you're never going to be shocked about that. And it's really, you find a player at 3.5K who has upside, which he did, in a great total, which it was. And, he just didn't get there. But from a process perspective, I'm still completely fine with Osborne.
Yeah. So let's touch on defense, and then we'll flip over to your team. So we both end up going to Bengals. Defense, I'm always looking to pay down as far as I can. Cheapest viable defense. They were 2,100. They were 30% owned. So they were, I think they're the chalkiest defense on the slate. Taking on Pittsburgh, we know Big Ben sucks. They end up scoring 12 points. So totally smashed. They're like 10x their salary there. Bengals were an awesome play. I think that we can kind of both put that one to bed. The Bengals are the best play on the slate. All right, so let's touch on tight end. So Tyler Higbee, I ended up rolling with. So 2 weeks in a row now, I've been on Higbee. And I had to stay with him because last week he completely destroyed me. He was 4K last week, or maybe 4,100, whatever it was. And he was chalk last week, completely destroyed me. He had like 1 catch for 8 yards against Indianapolis. He played 100% of the snaps. He was out there running a ton of routes. And I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to go back to him. I love this game environment. He's still going to play 100% of the snaps. He's still cheap. He's still 4K. And he ended up going 5 for 40 and got into the box. So at 4K, putting up 15 points, that's a total smash for a tight end. He was probably like a tight end 2 or 3 on the week, scoring 15 points. So, I tinkered around with some lineups that had Tyler Conklin because he was 2,900 in the awesome game environment. And Conklin ended up completely smashing. He scored like 20. So those lineups would have absolutely hammered. But I'm perfectly fine with Tyler Higbee. Do you have any thoughts on Higbee? And then you can go over and share your lineup.
Yeah, I really like Higbee too. Sunday morning, part of my stress was that I was tinkering around with a 2v2, and I'll just share my screen now. But my 2v2 was Keenan Allen and a sub 3.9 receiver. You see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah, so my 2v2 was Keenan Allen and a sub 3.9 receiver because that's just where the salary left me, which was really, really frustrating because I wanted to play, Higbee at 4K. So being 100 off was really, really frustrating. So then it turned into a 2v2 between it was Keenan Allen and Austin Hooper versus Tyler Boyd and TJ Hawkinson. And I didn't like Hooper. I wasn't going to play Jared Cook because that would have given me 3 Chargers. If I went down to Kmet or Conklin, it left me in a weird place with salary that I didn't know what to do with. I didn't want to come off the Bengals because I thought they were far and away the best sub 3K defense because Big Ben is like he couldn't be more dust here at this point. So I didn't want to come off of them. I wasn't going to not play Godwin. I wasn't going to not play Kupp or Eckler or Henry or Fields. I would have came off Fields, but only if it got me up to Herbert, and the salary didn't work out that way. So really, it was my hesitation about the tight end that is what put me on Boyd and Hockenson. I thought that Hockenson had shown a very, very strong floor. That he was getting 9.5 targets a game. He was clearly the top target for Goff going into this game, and then I don't know what the hell happened here, but Hockenson at 5.2K getting me 3 points. Like it's against everything that I preach about paying down for tight end. But Hockenson, like Baltimore just got smashed twice by Waller and Kelsey. So I was confident that Hockenson would be able to be able to do the same thing. I'm a Ravens fan, right? And like I watched Hollywood Brown drop 3 touchdowns in the same like within like a 20-minute time span.
Mm-hmm.
And I just can't help but think that, if Hollywood catches 2 of those touchdowns and this game isn't this close, because it shouldn't have been this close at all, maybe then Hockenson gets that garbage time or gets some kind of more production. But God, Goff just dumped down the DeAndre Swift every time. And then it'd be all, Khalif Raymond's out here getting 8 targets. Darren Fell out here out targeting, getting more air yards than Hockenson. Like, oh my goodness. Everything was a dump down to Swift. Raymond got, I'm going to say it again, 8 targets for Khalif Raymond. Like that's mind-boggling. Hawkins gets 2 targets. But, that's the nature of the position when it's not Kelsey or Waller. So I should have known better. This is now 3 weeks in a row that I've paid up for tight end, and it's bit me in the ass. So yeah, I'm just a fish. I need to just stop getting in my own head. And he was a great play, and you could say that from the ownership. Like he was owned by more than half the field. So it is what it is. It's just one of those games. You just hit a stone 4 here. So and then the other guy I rolled with was Tyler Boyd. He was 19% owned at 4,700. He had a fine game, 4 for 36, ended up getting the box. 13.6 points. Maybe wanted a little bit more out of him. I don't even know if he caught a ball in the second half. I didn't follow that game too much, but yeah, I mean, he was fine with T. Higgins being out. We knew that the target share was going to be pretty consolidated between, Boyd and Chase. Chase ended up catching the 2 touchdowns. He's just such a freaking beast. But expect a little bit more from Boyd here, though Pittsburgh, we know they're a solid defense, and their offense did little to nothing to put up a fight in this game. So, but I thought Boyd was just too cheap for his projected, workload. So 4.7K, I'm not mad about 13.6, but ended up with 132 points, and what really did me in was just getting 10 points combined from Fields, Osborne, and Hockenson. And it had nothing to do with Osborne because, he was fine at that price tag. But Hockenson at 5.2K getting 3 points, that hurt. And my quarterback getting me less than 4 points, like, goodness, you can't have a combination like that and not expect to win. I think going into the late games, I was 9 points below the line of cash with Kupp, Godwin, and who was it?
Osborne.
Kupp, Godwin, and Osborne going into the late games. I could have swapped. I decided not to. If I was going to swap, it would probably have just been from Godwin to Evans, and it wouldn't got me there anyway. I think that even if I had swapped to like Justin Jefferson to get off, Madison, Chalk, if I would have swapped off, I didn't want to swap off Cup because he was just going to go off. But it just so happened that I played all the chalk and the chalk went off for the most part. And, every time the line of cash moved, I didn't move with it. So it was a bad week. I learned from some of my process mistakes. Really just got to stop messing around with these tight ends. That's the main thing. So, on to another week, but yeah, I'm 1-2 on the season now, so we got to get this thing going.
Yeah. Yeah. And somehow I'm hanging on. The last couple weeks I had my best weeks. This week was a solid week. But I survived in advance. I'm 3-0 on the season heading into week 4. With that, we're gonna be back on Friday night breaking down the week 4 DraftKings main slate like we do every Friday. Until then, good luck, everybody.